I am so relieved that they did not go the misunderstood route with Dr. Phosphorus. Spoilers if you aren't up to date with Creature Commandos. Clayface actually blew Rick Flag's back out. One of my favorite aspects of this show is that they're so realistic when it comes to consequences. Like we're watching something that's been shot in live action that's just been redrawn here. Rick Flag is probably out for the rest of the season. And I found that super interesting because he has been the anchor of this show. Frankenstein is really terrible. I've been saying it for the last 3 episodes, but David Harbour makes it so hard to remember that. But James Gunn won't let us forget it. A lot of people are attributing his actions to naivety. I honestly think that we should give him more credit. Frankenstein is very smart. He is also 100 years old and continues to learn. He understands the consequences of his actions and he still chooses to be this way. We need to hold him accountable. He's not mentally ill or anything of that nature. He is just as capable and as intelligent as the bride. I know some people are going to say the Weasel episode was the most disturbing, but to me, it was Dr. Phosphorus. That framing scene where they're smearing his hands on his wife and child that are mangled, and the added effect of like their bodies kind of moving, I couldn't take it. To me, it was way worse than the children. I don't know what it was, but it was so disturbing. Once again, thank God this is animated. I don't know if I could watch the scene in live action. I know Gotham looks incredible. It would make sense that the darkest of the origin stories are set here. Also, shout outs to Rupert Thorne being the big bad here. His character is having a big year. He's also in Cape Crusader, which if you haven't watched, you're bugging. But don't trip, it is on Prime Video. Be sure to watch that and then check out my playlist, which is here, marked DC, because I cover every single episode. If you like Batman as a detective, Cape Crusader is your jam. Back to Creature Commando. The bride was just a little bit too comfortable enacting violence on these sex workers, and she herself is a victim of domestic abuse and stalking. This is very telling of a lot of women and how they perceive sex workers. I was so happy to see the madam kind of read The Bride to Filth, because the bride and the sex workers are not very different, but it's the confines of that patriarchal society that the bride has been living for hundreds of years that gives her the perception that she's better than them. Man, Dr. Phosphorus was terrifying in this episode. I'm glad that Batman understood that he needed to be with Katniss and not in Arkham Asylum. I'm really interested to see how people are going to react to his origin story and see whether or not people feel like he's now justified in the way that he moves. Because this is a point that I've been trying to prove for the last year. Just because we understand a villain's motivation doesn't mean that they're less villainous. We can have empathy for their plight and still understand that they are terrible people who deserve some of the things that are happening to them. What happened to Dr. Phosphorus' family was very tragic, but it's clear since then he's become a sadistic murderer. He didn't just take out Rupert Thorne and the people who scorned him. He took over his life and became a kingpin in Gotham. Mans was genuinely vibing. He was no longer on some kick to avenge his wife and child. In fact, I was terrified for that child that he was interacting with throughout the episode, because he mentions his intrusive thoughts was to murder this child. And the act of him deciding not to murder that child does not absolve him from the terrible thoughts and actions that he's been doing. He's been enjoying murdering all of these people. And yes, we've been seeing the bride murder an equal amount of people, but with her, it doesn't seem like it's out of joy, more so out of necessity. She doesn't initiate these fights. She ends up in situations where, hands need to be thrown. And she's annoyed the entire time. Look at her face. This brothel scene confirms that metahumans are widely known throughout this universe. And then in the next scene, we see the Batman apprehend Dr. Phosphorus. So this is just confirmation that the Batman we're gonna get in the DCU will be campy and filled with magic and metahumans and all that jazz. So y'all can simmer down with all that. I hate these detective grounded Batman, blah, 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 blah. As if Batman didn't start out in detective comics. That final shot of them all meeting up and walking towards the castle was just so cool. I love that the animators took the time to create a unique gate for each and every member, which is more difficult than you guys would know. I wonder how this assassination attempt is going to play out, because the bride and Phosphorus are ready for anything, but Nina has already admitted that she's never murdered anyone. It's clear that Weasel has a connection with the princess. I'm not quite sure if Rick Flag will wake up soon enough to tell Amanda Waller what's been going on, on. But even if he does, Amanda Waller will wash her hands of this assassination attempt. That's just the way she moves. We're gonna see. This was an excellent penultimate episode, and I'm sad that we only have one more left. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and give this episode 5 out of 5 Frankie Flames. I have no critiques of